This right here is the best book that I read in 2024. This is the worst book that I read in 2024. First of all, best and worst, it's very polarizing. I understand that you probably clicked on the video because you're like, oh, he's going to crap on a book, and oh, he's going to sing the praises of another book. Totally get that's the YouTube game. But it's not going to be as dramatic as that. I will sing the praises of the best book I read all year because it deserved it. And the worst book I read all year, really, let's be honest, it wasn't the worst book I could have possibly read. It was just fine. And I had a really good year of reading. So there had to be a book that finished last. In this case, I DNF'd this book. And so it just is a shoe in there for the worst book I read all year.
That's not good.
Let's start off with the good. We talk about winners first. Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson is everything. Everything. I have no notes. There's literally nothing wrong with this book. There's a theme on this channel now, in case you haven't noticed. We talk about Malazan a lot on here. And Memories of Ice is when things really started to get rolling for me as a reader of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Obviously, Gardens of the Moon, it's a bit tough. Deadhouse Gates, we just did a whole spoiler chat with Izzy on here talking about it. It's great, but like, the first half of the book drags a little bit. The second half is incredible and peerless, but the first half of the book struggles a little bit. Memories of Ice is where Steven Erikson gets his feet under him in this series, and it's just perfect, like pretty much in every respect. It is from the beginning to the end amazing. And I think that's why people tell you you should read the first 3 books in Malazan before you decide whether or not you're going to write it out for the entire 10-book series. Gardens of the Moon is kind of a prologue that gets you in the door a little bit. It's confusing. I understand that. And there's a lot going on. Deadhouse Gates thematically shows you all that can happen in Malazan. So you get some of these common trends that are going to come up in the future with the series. You want to read Deadhouse Gates because you want to know, are you going to vibe with some of the things that Erikson tends to do at the end of his books? Memories of Ice is like the classic stand up and cheer fantasy story. It's more recognizable as epic fantasy in a lot of ways, but it's also what Erikson likes to do with his stories. It is a bit tragic, a bit Shakespearean, and it's kind of like the Iliad. If Homer had read Beowulf, but then also Lord of the Rings, and also was writing his books in the early 2000s. So Memories of Ice is incredible, and if you haven't read Malazan yet, take this as your sign. Go ahead and read it. You won't regret it. The worst book I read all year was The Daughter's War by Christopher Buehlman. And I don't say that because it was like horrific or terrible. It just didn't work. And here's why.
I can't believe it, babe. I really didn't think things would end up like this.
Daughter's War didn't work because Black Tongue Thief was so good and so vastly different than Daughter's War. The Black Tongue Thief was a book that Christopher Buehlman wrote a few years ago about a thief who has to pay off his debt to the Thieving Guild. They trained him how to become a thief. And then he goes off on an adventure with a paladin named Galva. And they do a bunch of crazy stuff. And it's a wild book, a really fun book. And it's told all from Kinch na Shinnok, the thief. It's told from his point of view the entire time. And his point of view is amazing. It's so fun to read. It's lighthearted. It's like this stream of consciousness, just sort of like the guy that just can't stop talking because he's so hyped up on coffee and maybe some other drugs while he's at it. It's great. It's so much fun to read. Daughter's War is from the perspective of Galva, the paladin from Black Tongue Thief. And this is a prequel to Black Tongue Thief. Off the rip, you're like, okay, it's going to be somewhat similar to Black Tongue Thief, right? No, not at all. Like in any way, shape, or form is this remotely similar to Black Tongue Thief. It is somber, depressing, slow, just very different.
Holy
I think Christopher Buehlman is a really great writer. And so I don't say this like the book stinks, the book isn't good. I don't ever want to be the guy that says something isn't good because I think for the right audience, it will be good. It just didn't work for me. It didn't align to my taste, and I think it has to do with expectations. I read Black Tongue Thief first, which it was published first, and I really enjoyed it. I expected similar things with Daughter's War that I didn't get at all. The only real critique I have was an artistic choice. He would have Galva divert some of the storytelling by saying, oh, my brother wrote a letter about this event that happened, and since he witnessed it, we're just going to literally go over to him and he's going to tell you what happened. Like, that is how it happens on the page. She goes, let's go hang out with my brother for a little bit. He's going to read this letter to you. It was weird, and I didn't like it as an artistic choice. It just didn't work for me at all. You have like this build up in my head of it's going to be like this other book that Buellman wrote that's awesome in this same world, and it wasn't like that at all. And so my expectations kind of set me up to fail. But at the same time, what else was I going to do? Like, what else was I going to expect from this world and this writer? Daughter's War is a very interesting book. I had a great reading year, so I don't have a lot of books that I read that just stunk. This is the one that just kind of gets short shrift here. I wish I liked it more, but I didn't, and I DNF'd it, and it ended up being the worst book I read in 2024. That will do it for this video. Like and subscribe the video. If you hit the notification bell down there at the bottom, there will be a notification that pops up on your phone anytime a new video of mine shows up in your YouTube feed. So do that for sure, and definitely subscribe because that would just be nice. Have a good one, everybody. I will see you in the next video.